last set up with Job Active and the new Workforce Australia initiative that's out, or I guess program that's out. Firstly, I'd like to begin by acknowledging the traditional original owners of the lands we meet on today, the Muwinana people, and pay my respects to elders past, present and emerging. So, this is what we'll go through. I think this will take us 20 minutes or so, maybe even less. If you have any questions at any stage, you can jump in. It's a really quite a small group, so feel free to come off mute if you would like to and ask a question as we go through. Alternatively, we can wait until the end of the presentation and have any conversations and questions answered then. And really what we're doing on behalf of the federal government today is taking you through the new Workforce Australia employment services. Thank you, Stacey. It's quite a significant change, I think, in the context of the last 20 years. And so there is a little to go through, but it's quite logical and it's quite simple, the change that has occurred. So firstly, we'll go through why the changes, exactly what's been able to be shifted from the pre-July 1 period into where we are now. And most importantly, as a business operator, how can Workforce Australia assist you with today and onwards with the new structure of Workforce Australia, and in particular, a new online dimension to the entire employment service provision offering. So that's critical to the changes that have occurred, and that's what we'll spend a little bit of time focusing on today. So for quite a while now, there's been a review held of the, I suppose, inefficiencies of the Job Active Employment Service provision system that was in place. And in particular, what that 2018 review found was that the system wasn't necessarily able to assist long-term unemployed as well as we hope, and that in particular, very long-term unemployed, people over 2 years unemployed, weren't necessarily being given the best opportunities to enter the workforce under the current Job Active arrangement. So that is a critical piece that needed to change. And in addition to that, the review found that amongst other things, the existing structure was too impersonal for job seekers. There were quite a range of and high number of employee complaints that they weren't necessarily as connected to the service, or that it was confusing for them, and that it wasn't as localised as it could be to the local regions of Australia. So all of that's been taken on board, and of course, for quite a long time now, planning undertaken to address those issues. And we're going.
Great. Perfect.
So what we now have is essentially a three-tiered structure for Workforce Australia, and that first box that you can see there is the biggest change, as I mentioned before. So we now have Workforce Australia Online, and the way in which that works is that it supports eligible individuals to access online tools and resources based on their own personal needs. What that actually means is essentially, if you're a new job seeker and you're digitally literate, you can immediately log yourself into the online system and essentially be part of a nationwide free employment service, I guess not unlike a SEEK or a current private online offering. And so you're provided with support to, as a job seeker, register yourself, but essentially you go straight into the network of job seekers across the country, and there are currently already over 100,000 people that have registered to be in Workforce Australia Online, and that really is going to provide a greater efficiency for those people that don't necessarily need that higher degree of support to be given the opportunity to enter the workforce and be connected to employers. And we'll get to the employer side of this in a second. Importantly, what that's done is that's unlocked a larger proportion of resources to work on the longer term unemployed. And that's where there needs to be focus as well. So there's a dual benefit here that's really quite important. And in that second box is the more traditional one-on-one caseload management piece. And the goal, of course, with that additional funding is to really assist those people that need that additional support to address non-vocational barriers firstly, and then enter the workforce and be given the confidence and connection to be connected to an employer, that extra resourcing to do that. As has always been the case, there's a lot of wraparound support for business and industry provided in the system. So certainly our role as employment facilitators is part of that, where we can connect you, we can provide any information at any point in time and a service to you to assist, to understand what the employment service landscape looks like. And so that's there. What else have we got, Stacey? Just
as well as the employment facilitators, so the local jobs program logo that you can see behind Nick and I is something that runs across the country. So there's 51 regions or employment regions across the country, and every region has an employment facilitator. Nick is the interim employment facilitator for Hobart and Southern Tasmania. There is an equivalent to Nick in the north of the state. Some of you may have come across James McCormick before.
Yeah.
And the role of the employment facilitators is to hear what business needs and then identify existing service providers, programs, projects, stakeholders that might be able to assist in meeting those needs. And where there are gaps, then the employment facilitators have a really big role in identifying ways in which we might be able to close some of those gaps. So it might be pre-employment programs, it might be looking at supporting businesses to access alternative sources of labour. There's a whole range of different ways in which businesses can be assisted, but the Workforce Australia system is very focused on making sure that it provides benefits and support for business and industry, not just for job seekers.
Thank you. All right, so this is a dashboard of what you will see when you go into the new Workforce Australia Online for Business. You may have already gone and had a look here. Aimed obviously to be user-friendly and business-focused. And so there are 6 boxes there. Firstly, I suppose the most important piece to understand is, just like you could for a private employment provider, you can go online and register yourself as a business, and that's a free service where you can essentially then be advised of any vacancies of that 100,000 and soon to be much larger than that strong job-seeking population that can match your vacancies and be provided to you through the online system. So that's straight away is a much more efficient way to connect you to your labour needs. You can see some of the other options that are there. So for those that are in that seasonal work sector, advertising a harvest job has a particular focus at the moment, as you can understand, because there's a huge shortage. You can find an employment service provider to be given some additional support and link to them. Financial support for hiring is available, and you can train or trial a candidate and use all of the different options that are available there. And a box to make contact with somebody in the system if it's not working. Certainly, the advantages are, I think it's a free service. You can register and upload your own business profile there, advertise your own jobs, and the great benefit is obviously there's a large number of candidates Australia-wide that will be there. Down here in Tasmania, we expect that there'll be really large take-up, and I don't have the exact figures of what the southern population that have registered is at the moment, but we'll be able to find that out soon, I'm sure. And so that's essentially the biggest change that's happened in quite a long time in the employment service sector, and I think everybody's hopeful that that'll provide a lot more efficiency for employers to be able to access that available workforce more efficiently than they have been able to in the past.
And I think it's interesting to note that you could actually advertise a job under the previous system. It just wasn't anywhere near as user friendly, and it also there wasn't an online caseload to which you could market to. So when you advertise a vacancy here, which is a free service, you are marketing to the online caseload, which are deemed to be effectively work ready. They're work ready, they're digital literate. So when you think about advertising to unemployed people, it's not, generally you won't be reaching long-term unemployed or people with a significant number of barriers. The people that are on here could be you or I, that we've lost our job today, we register online and all of a sudden an employment opportunity pops up. that an employer has loaded onto the site. And once you've got your business profile up there, it's it kind of has a bit of a profile for you, which means that it makes it much quicker and easier to advertise multiple vacancies or to have it as part of your recruitment channel, which I think is a great benefit for businesses. And as I was saying to Nick before, indirectly our taxes pay for these services, so it's not a bad idea to try and use them and get some value for money.
Yes.
You know, the worst thing that's going to happen is you don't find your suitable candidate and you might need to go to the next option.
So just in terms, it may be helpful to give you an update on what's happened from July 1 with regards to the employment service contracts in southern Tasmania. At the moment, these are the three, well, for the next contract period, these are the three employment service providers who have been successful in the tender process. There's been only one change there, so you'd be familiar with Work Skills Tasmania, who are wholly Tasmanian created and operated organisation, have been successful in reapplying and winning their contract, as have Max Employment. And we have a new service provider in Assyria, who are a national organisation, and will be entering the Hobart market and looking to provide their services as well. That's for general job seekers. There's also, of course, what's called the Transition to Work contract, which this year, there's just been awarded to Work Skills Tasmania as well. Previously, it was Colony 47 that held that contract for the last 7 years. And so Work Skills will be operating both contracts. Transition to Work, just for that reminder, is 15 to 24-year-old young people, and it's an opt-in program that provides you with an additional layer of support. You essentially are allocated a development coach who is able to assist you with, I suppose, addressing your non-vocational barriers, anything to do with homelessness or getting a driver's license or mental health issues, as well as then onwards into being connected to an employer and building all those employability skills that will get you into the market. With my experience at Colony 47, it's a great team of people that work in that space and do a really great job. I know many of them have made a transition across, and there's a really good team of people there to help young people on that journey of building their confidence and skills to be employed. The next couple of slides, we're nearly there, guys, so we're not too far away from completing this, and it might be just a little bit of some of the information that we've already passed on to you, so apologies for that. The actual number is 190,000 users across the country at this point in time that are registered online for employment, which is terrific. And I guess from your point of view, it's a low risk way to go. All the people that are registered are digitally literate, less than 12 months unemployed, generally job ready, and you know, you can advertise your jobs through Workforce Australia for Business to see if there's a match for you. And as Stacey mentioned before, the local jobs program, which is where this employment facilitator role that I'm in and that Stacey's been in, is funded, is available to you as well. And that's essentially operated through a task force that we've established here locally that has a membership that's representative of the local labour market and provides advice on the creation of a local jobs plan. And from that, we were able to assist local employers in industries, particularly that are in shortage, to come up with potential solutions, potentially even fund some programs and projects to address labour market shortages and really help this local community solve that problem of finding a workforce in their own organisations. So that's what we were employed to do, and that's the local jobs program that's all around the country. Here in Tassie, of course, we've also got the regional jobs hubs, and it's quite a unique scenario here because I guess it's the only state jurisdiction that has local jobs hubs. So we will work hand in glove with the local jobs hubs as well to make sure that, I suppose, rising tide lifts all boats, and there's a joint effort there to get people back into the employment market, and that's really something that's ongoing at the moment as the local jobs hubs dial up and get themselves going. There's another national program called the Workforce Specialist Panel, which is brand new, and you wouldn't know a lot about that. And that's really and I don't explain this particularly well, so I know you explained it really well to me before. Do you want to have a go?
So the Workforce Specialist Panel is experts across different areas across the entire country. So it might be education and training, specific industry knowledge, those sorts of things. So if an employer or an industry has a number of vacancies, so for example, you know, if we take the hospitality industry, identifies that they have 50 vacancies. If you've been reading the news, there's hopefully going to be a nice big fancy hotel built in the middle of Tasmania, which will really bring Oatlands into the 21st century, more so than they already are. You know, the workforce specialist panel can actually identify and come up with projects that help skill up the workforce to fill those vacancies. So if it's a large organisation or if it's an industry sector, the idea is that you might come to Nick and say, hey, I've got 30 jobs coming up and I don't know who's going to do those jobs. Then Nick might approach the workforce specialist panel. They'll identify the right people and then they'll come up with a project and hopefully fund that project to attract and skill job seekers to be able to fill those vacancies. So it's a pretty cool initiative and very much responding to the challenges that I think every sector is facing in the labour market at the moment and trying to find the right people to fill vacancies.
So keep an eye for that. There'll be more of that in the future.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. This is our final slide, and really it refers to a change in the way a job seeker will need to, I suppose, log their effort. What's the better way to describe that?
Well, technically it's replacing the 20 jobs a month. So as an employer, you may have been bombarded with ambit job applications from people that needed to say to their employment service provider so they can keep their Centrelink payments that I've applied for this many jobs. That system has been thrown out based on feedback from employers, but also this more supportive approach to help address those barriers to long-term unemployment. Yep. And I'll leave it to you to explain PBAS.
It's a points-based system. It's a lovely acronym. It describes what it's for, which is handy. And so really, as a job seeker, you're able to accumulate points, and those points then you need to reach 100 points. Is it over 6 months?
Yep, over 6 months.
Over 6 months. So there's lots of ways in which you can do that. You could do it, for example, by sticking with applying for 20 jobs if you wanted to, but more practically, there are a whole range of things that you could do to improve your employability as a job seeker that can all be counted with points. So it's a much more logical approach that encourages a job seeker to be self-sufficient and proactive. And there's some of the examples there of the things that they will be able to do that are going to result in points. It could also include driver's license training as well for those that need to find themselves a license. And it's really a much more practical, and I think going to be a huge improvement to the system, a much more practical way to go. So you can look that up. That'll all be on the website if you want to find out some more information about what the detail is on that points-based activation system. And really, unless there are some questions, that is really all we've got to provide you today. There's my details in case you don't have them, which you wouldn't. I'm really looking forward with Stacey over this next few weeks as the interim employment facilitator to assisting anybody in the South that's got any needs for help to be in touch and guide you through and connect you into our federal government employment service programs. So thanks for that short amount of time. It's only taken 20 minutes to get through that. Apologies that we had